Hey Potters, it's Word for Thought Pod, and I'm your host Nicole, and I'm here with special guest host.
Hi, it's me, Joshua.
And today we're going to be discussing what cancel culture is and whether it works or not. Go for it.
Okay, is it recording?
Yes.
Okay, well, good to know. Okay. Hi, I'm Joshua. I'm in grade 10 at Glenford Secondary School. I'm pretty active on the internet. So, I know a lot about cancel culture. Beyond just like John Mueller and like Logan Paul stuff, I have heard a lot about different cancelings that have happened. And over the years, I've kind of gathered like an opinion and a mindset on what I think cancel culture really should be and what it really is today. And I want to discuss it with you guys today.
Okay, great.
Did I not snap?
No, you snapped. You snapped. Don't worry, it's alright. So, basically what it is, it's a way in which the commoners in social media can essentially boycott a famous person who has demonstrated offensive behavior. So, basically it's extremely controversial because some argue that is the only way that very influential individuals can actually get justice. However, some people believe that it leaves no room for improvement. What's your stance?
So I see the issues with cancel culture just because, obviously it isn't always productive, as many like to say, because you can cancel somebody, but ultimately people will forget about what they're canceled for. And so all that work into canceling them, into tweeting or whatever, kind of does go nowhere sometimes. However, some people still are known for being canceled. Like, Justin Trudeau, people still remember what he did, even though it was like 6 months ago. So in a sense, there is the benefits there. But the main part that I agree with for cancel culture and the main benefit that I see is that it holds people accountable for their actions, right? So before modern day, we lived in a society where oftentimes celebrities did offensive things, right? Like whether it was like mocking a race or, saying offensive comments, whatever. As a society, we're a lot more politically correct today than we have been in the past. And so now with cancel culture, we can directly hold celebrities accountable for their actions and make sure that the example that they're setting for people is a good example that is politically correct. And so, because if we don't do this, celebrities can do very offensive things, I see the value in this. However, as I said before, the work that goes into canceling somebody, and the standards for canceling somebody, and the general disorganization with canceling a person is often very unstructured, and it's just yelling on Twitter, and it's just yelling on YouTube, whatever. So, unless it's made more productive, the value for cancel culture isn't really there.
Period. We're way too loud. They're gonna kick us out. Okay. Anyways, so I think he's gonna come and yell at us. Okay. Anyways. So I think the best way to put this into perspective is by giving a few examples. And I think the best example would kind of be the introduction to the term of cancel culture, which I think is James Charles.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, so James Charles didn't necessarily do anything that was directly racist or, like, sexist or whatever. But his actions have been seen by many as predatory. And when Tati, this YouTube channel, exposed him, quote-unquote, last year, many people saw it as very cancelable, and he received a ton of backlash. He lost over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. His followers went down, Kylie Jenner didn't want to associate with him, etc. His entire brand and image, because of cancel culture, was completely diminished. So that in a sense gives you like perspective on what cancel culture is and can actually do. But as you may know already, it turns out that he actually wasn't doing anything that wrong, and so he was uncancelled. But, did I lie? I'm confused.
Maybe a little.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. So, after like the entire thing blew over, in a sense, like a week after Toddy's video, James Charles, as you may know, had his apology video. But in his apology, it wasn't just apologizing. He actually debunked a lot of the claims that were actually made against him in Toddy's video. And so while he did do like some weird things like, chasing straight guys, whatever, he in a sense was uncancelled. And his followers, literally in the span of 2 weeks, like decreased by at least 2 million and then jumped up back to where it was before, whereas Tati's went down after the entire thing happened. So you can just see there like the power of cancel culture and what it can actually do for people today.
Okay, so not everything you said was true.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna give like a brief synopsis of what happened. So yeah, Tati Westbrook, who is like a beauty guru on YouTube, made a video where she basically exposed James Charles, and they were longtime friends, and this is honestly really petty in my opinion, but like James Charles posted a promotion for one of her competitors' products. And then Tati also accused him of becoming too obsessed with fame and that he was becoming selfish and was too concerned with his image. But then what got the most attention and I guess like the most cancel-worthy aspect of this was that Tati accused James of coercing guys into doing sexual acts with him. Quote unquote, she said, quote unquote, "Oh my God, he tried to trick a straight man into thinking he's gay yet again." So this video gained over 37 million views before she deleted it. And many different people started giving their stance on it, like Jeffree Star or Gabriel Zamora, I think. And
It's not hard to pronounce.
Sorry. I didn't remember what it was. Anyways, and Nikita Dragon, they all kind of got involved, and then they grew the amount of drama. And James lost many followers, and even like very famous celebrities like Khloe, Courtney, and Kim Kardashian. And Kendall Jenner, Demi Lovato, Ariana Grande, and Miley Cyrus as well. And then Tati gained many subs, and she reached 10 million subs, while James lost 2.6 million. So, I don't know. I think he kind of did get justice for it. Like, I don't know. But did he actually end up gaining everything back?
Well, I don't know about like all of his followers, but he definitely bounced back a lot. But his apology, like his clapback video in a sense, was really good, because like while he was caught he was caught lacking obviously for some of the stuff that he actually did do, but for some things that he didn't do, he kind of exposed that. But he for sure is still seen as a problematic figure by many people, despite that, just because of like how big the drama was. Whether it was right or wrong or not, the power of cancel culture is that even though like maybe like a few people uncanceled him, the fact was he got canceled so massively by cancel culture that he's still seen today as problematic, even if most people don't even know why or like what he actually did originally. So with cancel culture, even if we all don't directly know what actually happened, the power of the people online or even in person, when somebody that's popular does something wrong, is literally so massive that people can completely, like, their perception by other people can change massively, for the better or for the worse.
Okay, so in your opinion, do you think he deserved to be canceled?
I'm not necessarily sure of everything that he did because I forgot about it, but I do remember watching Tati's video last year and thinking a lot of like the accusations, if true, were valid. I never actually watching his entire apology video, but from what I can tell, a lot was debunked and a lot of people like him again now, so I'm not sure. But I think he deserved the original canceling because what was accused of him was in itself pretty bad. So I do think that he deserved the canceling, but I'm not sure if like him still being seen as problematic today is warranted.
Do you think that he was canceled properly though? I don't know. Like if I were him, and I understand that everything he did was bad, and I honestly definitely wanted him to be canceled while it was all happening as well, I would like want to die if I was getting that much hate. Like I would just I don't even know how I'd deal with that. And like people argue that when we're canceling someone, we don't give them room to actually change and to improve, and I kind of agree with that sometimes, because like I don't know.
So actually, I think that this is like one of the rare instances where he was actually canceled properly, because usually it's just like people like commenting like, you know, for Lil Huddy being canceled, it's just like Melanin King and like all this kind of stuff, right? But this time, like with James Charles, I think it was actually a proper canceling, because everything like online was about him and him being canceled. Like not just people, but Twitter trending hashtags, drama alert. Like you said, beauty gurus that have tons of clout were tweeting against him, etc. So when cancel culture and a canceling goes from beyond people just like ranting on Twitter to actual celebrities and people like denouncing him, I think it goes from like a, you know, just like people shouting to an actual canceling. So I'd actually argue that this time, like while he was canceled by many, and when he was considered a bad person, it was properly done, even if it was like too mean or whatever. Because here's the thing, I hear the argument a lot that like we're not giving like celebrities room to improve and that they're just people or whatever. But at the same time, by being a celebrity and by like putting yourself out there on like social media as an influencer, the acting scene, whatever, the first lesson that you ever learn is that you have to be very, very like careful of what's like on camera, right? Because you know that cancel culture exists, and you know that you have to be so careful with what you do and say, because ultimately you're a role model for so many people across the world because you're an influencer, you have influence, right? And so I think like sometimes it's very important to like give room to improve if they've actually apologized and shown like improvement, like with Jeffree Star and saying the N-word. But I definitely feel like sometimes, like, if somebody does something really bad, which is almost inexcusable, especially when it's, like, done repeatedly, I definitely don't feel like they always deserve to be, it doesn't always deserve to be forgave or forgotten. We can let people improve for sure, but I feel like if you do something really bad as a celebrity, you never truly will be forgiven or forgotten, and I don't think you never truly should be either. But at the end of the day, it's really important to recognize that they're all people inside, and so counseling can be productive and can be justified, whatever, but ultimately they are people, and so people can improve, people can change, people can feel sad. Nobody in this world loves being hated, right? No, everybody here, well, most people in the world, or virtually all, to some extent, want to be liked. And even if they don't care that much about people or whatever, nobody wants to feel hated and no one wants to feel excluded, because we're just human beings and we're naturally social creatures, right? And so I feel like even though celebrities can do very bad things, the point where cancel culture can be too much is if you don't give them room to breathe. So in my opinion, it's case dependent. If they've, like, actually shown an improvement, if they've apologized really well, and if, like, they just deserve to be uncancelled, I feel like we shouldn't cancel them. But not everybody in cancel culture agrees with that. And because of that misorganization within the actual culture, it gets really hard to have a very productive canceling, like with James Charles.
So are you saying that cancellation should be temporary then?
I think it should be temporary if they've actually proven that either they didn't do the things that they're accused of, or they've shown improvement, or they've actually, like, demonstrated that they've grown from that. Like, just, like, from like the top of my head, I know people, like, on YouTube, like, even Logan Paul was, like, forgiven to an extent for his suicide stuff. Obviously people still remember that it happened, but because of, like, how much he's tried to show that he's grown, his fan base has forgiven him in a sense.
Okay, I'm sorry. The things that he did to, like, come back from that was so stupid, though. And then didn't he want to make a documentary about something? What was that about?
Didn't he do, like, a documentary with, like, Shane Dawson? Or is that Jake Paul?
No, that was Jake Paul.
Okay, no, Logan Paul did a lot.
Jake Paul has also been cancelled. How come no one's talking about that? Like, he literally says the N-word.
No, but more than that, like, he harms women, like, in Team 10 and stuff.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like, in my opinion, if it's, like, what something that they've said before or how they've acted before, not actually assault or violence, there should be more leniency if they've actually demonstrated, like, that they've grown from it, right? But if it's something violent, like in the case of James Charles, like, people thought for a time he was a predator for straight men, right?
But what did he ever prove otherwise? How?
Because what the person that people were saying that was straight, that he was, like, coercing into, like, sex, whatever, was Gage, and he was actually bisexual at the time. Like, he was questioning what he was, like, bi or whatever. So it wasn't necessarily predatory, but James for sure did cross boundaries. For sure. But it wasn't as big as it seemed by Tatu's video. So people kind of forgot about it to an extent. But if, like, you've been proven as, like, a rapist, like Harvey Weinstein, whatever, I for sure think it's, like, it's another level.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's case dependent.
So you think that sometimes it should be temporary, sometimes not. But if it has to do with, like, rape or assaulting someone or any sort of violence, then it should be permanent?
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah. I don't really think I think that if you were to rape someone, you have to be a really, really bad type of person, and I don't really think you could ever change from that.
For sure. Because that's, like, sadism to an extent, right? And sadism is psychological, not, like, behavioral. Like, if you say the N-word, maybe, like, you grew up in, like, a neighborhood where it was, like, it was acceptable and normal or whatever. But I don't know if any, like, neighborhood in America or even North America, like, that rape is, like, a normal thing, right? So it's just different.
Yeah, North America, yeah. So I guess it's, I don't know. Would you even say, like, you have to be, like, psychotic to do something like that?
I think you'd have to have some type of disregard for human emotion, or some type of, like, misalignment from, like, remorse. Like, if you punch somebody who, if you accidentally, like, punch somebody, you'd feel bad naturally as a person, right? But not everybody, like, as you may know already, that's, like, sociopathic, psychopathic, whatever, feels that. So that, like, misalignment from remorse, I would say, is pretty common in rapists. But I don't know. Maybe, like, it was a one-time thing, which I doubt. But if they want to say that, I don't know, whatever. But I personally don't think that they deserve to be uncancelled. But the thing is, it's really hard to get everybody in the entire cancel culture, obviously, to, like, say, we're going to cancel this person and cancel them now. Like, we're going to say that, like, these are the rules for canceling. We're going to cancel if they do this, but uncancel if they do this, whatever. It's extremely hard because it's not, like, an official body organization. It's just people that are just mad online. End of story, right? So getting like that productiveness and that structure to cancel culture where we can all agree on what deserves to be uncanceled and canceled is virtually impossible. So even if that's like my take on like who should be uncanceled and canceled, it's really hard for it to actually be like a common idea because of so many people that are involved in cancel culture.
Do you think that cancel culture is basically just a breeding ground for hate, though? Because, like, with James Charles, like, I said this before to you, but, like, I think a big reason why so many people were just, like, willing to jump onto the bandwagon of hating him was because of homophobia. And, like, he's gay, and he's, like, an MUA, and a lot of people didn't like that to begin with. So people didn't like him even before he got canceled, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe, I just feel like it was blown a little bit out of proportion. Like, you couldn't escape it. Like, it was everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And it was just one person having to deal with all of this. And what he did, it was definitely call-out worthy, mm-hmm. but I don't think it was, I don't know. I just, like, can't even imagine what was going through his head when he has to, like, open his socials and see that many, like, millions of people talking about him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, it's your worst, like, nightmare, like, you know, opening, like, Snapchat, and, like, everybody's, like, he's canceled, we hate him, whatever, like, all this stuff, and, like, it's obviously a nightmare. As for whether canceling people is, like, cancel culture is a breeding ground for hate, I'm not sure, because I feel like for some people, it might stem from an actual place of, you know, like, offense or, like, general justice, or, like, actually wanting to get, like, justice for somebody. Like, let's say that, like, you're a rape victim, and then, like, you heard about, like, a rapist that was being excused, like, Dr. Will with Kesha, for example. Then I'd say, like, you're not being hateful for canceling them. Like, you just personally feel like, you just personally have an attachment to the case, and so you have an emotional reason for wanting to, you know, cancel this person. But I feel like a lot of the times it is ultimately hate, but just the reason for hate not always being, like, who the person actually is, just the reasons for being, like, problematic or whatever, right? So it is ultimately just hate, but in a sense the hate is fueled by like, in their opinion, something that like the celebrity actually did to be hated. So it's ultimately still hate at the core of it. But when you cancel somebody, like, the idea is there's a reason for that hate. So it isn't just, like, blindless hate. It's hate guided by, like, an action that they see as provoking that hate, in a sense.
So having said that, do you think it's necessary?
I think it's necessary to cancel people, for sure. Now the issue is, I can see why you might think it's not necessary just because of how unproductive it is, and so, like, why put all this work into canceling somebody, you know, if in, like, 2 months or so it's all forgotten and, like, whatever, then what's the point of doing it? But I think it's ultimately very important to educate, first of all, that celebrity on what they did wrong, because the entire process of canceling, like, will, like, obviously let them know that, like, what they did was wrong or whatever, but also, like, it holds people accountable and sets a standard for society and tells people, like, not even celebrities, what's okay and what isn't okay to do or say. Mm-hmm. So while it's unnecessary in the sense that it's unproductive and it's a ton of work into, like, barely anything in, like, a year or so, I think, like, the short-term outcome of canceling is very beneficial.
Okay, but do you think there's better ways of doing it? Like, a more productive way, a more efficient way of doing it? Or do you think it's just gonna have to be this way forever?
So, when you say, like, this way, do you mean, like, people, like, commenting, like, you know, Melanin King, whatever, and just, like, spamming, like, their DMs? Like, what do you mean?
I don't know. I just feel like it could be a lot more productive, and I feel like the way that it's fueled right now, it's either, like, just hating on someone for the purpose of getting your anger out, and, like, rather than, like, actually taking a look at the actual outcome, the possible outcome, like, the better outcome, mm-hmm. or it's just, like, for jokes. Like, you know, I forgot her name, but the girl from Jane the Virgin, the one who said...
Yeah, Gina Rodriguez.
Yeah. She was just memed on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think... I mean, like, she apologized on her story, but she apologized, like, it was nothing. It was honestly nothing. And I feel like cancel culture there, they just basically memed on it, and I don't think it was productive. Or, like, as you were talking about with Lil Hoodie, Melanin King. Like, you think he cares? Like, it's either way too drastic and just way too fueled with hatred, or it's a joke. Mm-hmm. So I just feel like it should just we should find a better, smarter way to do it.
I mean, we have, like, news channels, in a sense, quote unquote news channels, to, like, cancel people. Like, we have Drama Alert, whatever, all those like shows that attempt to, like, make a more unified, to provide a more unified sense of information about like who's being canceled or whatever, but it still isn't really productive because that's just informing people about the actual canceling, not the actual canceling process. So the thing is, because the entire cancel process is social and relies on people, you'd have to find a way to organize a mass amount of people on the internet, which in my opinion is like literally impossible because
I agree.
because only it's like a mass of people, it's on the internet as well, where most of the time you don't even know like who these people actually are in real life, so you can't actually hold them accountable for anything. So I agree that like it's often like memeing and like very unproductive, but I also don't know how that would be like, avoided and actually structured around. So what I'm thinking about now is like, is it better to have very unproductive canceling or just no canceling at all? Because the ideal situation, I just don't think it would be possible.
I don't think we should eliminate it. Like, I don't really understand. Okay, like if we talk about Harvey Weinstein, he wasn't really held accountable for much. I mean, like, yeah, he was charged with predatory sexual assault and like criminal sexual acts and rape, but he's been accused by like he's been accused of sexual misconduct of over 80 women. And like, yes, he may be perceived as canceled, but if you actually take a look at like what happens, like, I don't know how to describe this. If you actually take a look at how he's treated, people are always in his favor. Like, people always work in his favor. So, for example, he attended a young artist event, and then a comedian called him out on set, but she was booed. And then 2 women who confronted him were asked to leave. So people will still work in his favor, even though he may have been seen as canceled. So, like, does it really even work? James Charles right now, is he even canceled?
I mean,
I can't really tell if people are canceled or not anymore. I feel like cancellation really only works for, like, 2 weeks. And if you actually take a look at, like, Harvey Weinstein, or how do you even say his name? I don't know. Weinstein? Yeah. Okay, Harvey Weinstein. Really? Yeah. Okay, Harvey Weinstein. I mean, I guess he is canceled. I really don't know.
I feel like, except for very rare cases, canceling either goes away, or if it does stay, it becomes a meme. Like Justin Trudeau, if you want to say he's canceled, but it's all memes about like Aladdin or whatever, and like who's mimicking. Like anybody else like that you can think of right now, like Tana Mongeau, there's memes about her. Trisha Paytas, James Charles, like there's like they're being memed. Even like Lil Huddy, like back to the example of him. So permanently canceling somebody in the sense that like people do not like them is very, very hard and very rare. But canceling in the sense that like what stays is a memes is very, very often, because like it's a meme culture on the internet that we have, like that's very prevalent. So I don't know. I feel like a true proper canceling where it isn't just a meme but an actual serious thing that lasts for a very long time and is truly productive has only happened maybe a couple times. And like you said with Harvey Weinstein, and even with him, like people still support him. Like in the industry, people still support him. You know knew him personally, whatever. So, I mean, in a sense, like it's hard to like get everybody to hate that person. So I maybe that's like unrealistic in the first place. But the idea of like a canceling where nobody likes this one person would be very, very hard to do. And I think would only be deserved and if they were extremely, extremely fucked up. Like they raped somebody, they killed somebody, I don't know. But for like most things today that we cancel for, they're bad things that deserve like that deserve like to be canceled or whatever. But they don't deserve like a full canceling in the sense that like nobody likes them. If they're like they can get like no work, they can get like no respect, whatever. Personally,
I actually 100% agree with that. But okay, there's something I found online where basically it's basically just a debate, a huge debate when we're talking about cancel culture, if it's guilty until proven innocent or innocent until proven guilty. Because when it comes to cancel culture, when you just like hop on this bandwagon of hating someone, a lot of the time it's guilty until proven innocent, right? Like if we're talking about James Charles and then he kind of like claimed his innocence, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think that we should... I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. Okay. Do you think that when someone comes out about something, trying to cancel someone, we should just believe them? Or do you think it should be innocent until proven guilty? Basically, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know.
So it depends. Like, if it's a personal experience where it's like, this guy raped me, this guy racially hate crimed me, yes, I think it should be believed for the most part. Like, maybe not like wholly believed, but like their opinion should be considered. If it's like this person said all this shit about somebody, they did all this like bad stuff that was like not like that serious, but like cancel worthy, there should be proof done. But the thing is, like, ultimately, people aren't gonna wait for proof a lot of the times, because if they hear a reason to cancel somebody, from what I've seen, they'll just like jump at the opportunity and just like cancel them. So even if like even if the fair thing to do, that even our justice system does in itself, is wait until like we can prove them guilty to actually cancel them, because people will jump at like the opportunity and the chance to hate. It just isn't that possible. But for sure, like, the good thing and the fair thing to actually do is to wait for evidence. But not everybody will follow like that belief.
Okay, so what happens if someone gets fired because of it? Do you think they deserve to get fired? Do you think they automatically deserve to be getting hate just because, well, even though there isn't any evidence that proves them guilty?
Would you consider like a person's story evidence?
Like if you're talking about rape or something? It's so difficult because you have to think about both lives. Like, let's say there's a man who has allegedly raped someone, but he has a family and like he has a job, and then he loses a job, and then like what does the family think? And he can be getting so much hate, and who knows if that story is even true. But at the same time, that woman or that girl had to go through so much, and like I feel like I should believe her either way, just because.
Yeah, it's messy for sure.
Just because, like, if it was true, then he deserves so much hate.
Well, back to like your original question of like firing somebody, unless it was like very concrete unless it was like a very concrete story, no, I feel like there should be evidence provided, just because like it's a legal process of firing somebody, right? As for canceling, it gets really messy, because you won't always have proof, especially for like personal experiences with like assault, racism, sexism, whatever. Like, you won't always have like physical proof, so I'm not sure. But our law system works where it's innocent until proven guilty. I think ideally cancel culture should follow that, but we both know that like making that like possible is very, very hard, and it seems a lot easier than it's like actually than it actually would be when applied to a situation, because controlling like that many people on like the internet, just I don't think it's possible at all.
Okay, so that's all Josh and I have for you guys today. Follow me on Instagram at Word for Thought Pod. DM us if you have any questions, and stay engaged as we will be posting stuff on our story. And don't hesitate to leave a comment and like and subscribe. Thank you.